welcome to Meeple University's How to Play Planecrafters. In Planecrafters, 2 to 4 players compete to put together weird and wonderful and not always symmetrical aircraft, selling them for money, which they can then spend to hire employees or hoard until the end of the game. The game plays until the entire deck of parts cards runs out, and the player who has the most money at the end of the game wins. At the time of filming this video, Planecrafters, or by its full name, Master Pennington B. Knickerknacker the 16th and the Planecrafters, is an active project on Kickstarter, and so the art that you see here in these components may not be final. Additionally, we are teaching the game from a print and play copy which was provided to us by Bosley Board Games. To set up the game, first shuffle all of the parts cards together. You'll remove some of the cards if you're playing with 2 or 3 players. Give 5 crowns to each player as starting money, then choose a first player and deal starting hands, which will be 3 for the first player and 4 for the second player in a 2-player game, 3, 4 and 5 in a 3-player game, and 3, 4, 4 and 5 in a 4-player game. Then place the 20 employees into the common area, sorting them by their tier, tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3, and take the parts deck and place 4 cards face up into a common supply. You're now ready to start the game. Each turn in Planecrafters takes place over 5 steps. Hire, in which players can hire an employee from the main supply. Acquire, in which players take part cards from the common supply. Flyer, in which players play cards from their hand into an aeroplane. Buyer, in which players sell their planes for money. And finally, a cleanup phase in which players discard down to 5 part cards if necessary. Hire and buyer are optional, but any action that you take must be taken in the order printed on the card. When taking the hire action, a player may take exactly 1 employee card from those available on the board, paying the cost in crowns as shown at the bottom of the card. Other than being able to pay the cost for the employee, there is no restriction to which card a player may take, and a player may even take a second copy of an employee that he or she already has. The effect that each employee has is printed in text at the bottom of the card. If the employee triggers during your turn, there will be an icon in the bottom right corner of the card, which corresponds to the phase of your turn in which the employee will trigger. And you can see this on your cheat sheet. If the employee triggers outside your turn, it will have this star icon here. If you have 2 copies of the same tier 1 employee, you will double its effect. I won't take you through all of the individual employee powers in this video. You can read them on this help card as well as in the rulebook. But it is important to know that there are some roles that can attack other players, stealing their parts or money, as well as some roles which will protect you from other players. In the acquire phase, you take 2 part cards from the common supply. You take these one at a time, and they can be taken either from the face-up supply or the top of the pile. When you take one from the main supply, it is replaced before you take your second. There are 6 different models of planes whose parts you will be collecting during the game. There are 4 smaller planes, which have a nose, a tail, and 2 wings. And there are 2 larger planes, which have a nose, a tail, 2 wings, and a fuselage. You'll also be able to collect spare parts, which can serve as any other aeroplane component. During the flyer phase, players will be able to play up to 2 cards from their hand into their factory, which is the face-up area in front of them. Players will be playing the cards to build up a single aeroplane. When building up the aeroplane, it is not necessary to have parts which match from the same model. Complete Frankenplanes are allowed, but the key restrictions are that a plane can only have one of each type of component. Players can only play 2 on each turn, but the plane will stay there, and on subsequent turns, players can come back and add their other components. If you wish to discard an aeroplane part to make room for another one of the same type, you may do that, placing the discarded card face down on the bottom of the draw pile. When playing cards during the flyer phase, a player may, as a free action, that is not counting as one of the player's 2 placements, play a spare part, which can be played in place of any other part of the aeroplane. Later on, if a player has the aeroplane part which the spare part is taking the place of, the player may freely move the spare part to another portion of the aeroplane to accommodate another card. Once you have a completed Frankenplane in your factory, you can sell it during the buyer phase. A completed plane is one which has all 4 of the major parts, a nose, 2 wings and a tail, or has all 5 parts including a fuselage. When you sell the plane, you gain the money value for that plane, and that will depend on how many components of matching models you have in that plane. This is shown on this card. If you have 1 part matching a model type, you get 1 crown. If you have 2 parts of a certain model, you get 3 crowns. 3 parts is 6 crowns, and so on. And you add all of the different models together to get the total points. For example, in this plane here, it has 2 Goliath parts worth 3 crowns, and then 1 each of Big Boy and Night Fury. That adds to a total of 5 crowns. This plane here has 3 Paladin parts, which is worth 6 crowns, 1 Supernova worth 1, and a spare part is always worth 1. That means this adds up to 8 crowns. Once you have sold the plane, gather up all of the parts and place them in a pile in your player area. This will come into final scoring. There are 3 endgame bonuses in Planecrafters. These 2 are assessed at the end of the game, but this one is assessed during the buyer phase. This award ends up going to the player who sells the most valuable plane. And so the first time a player sells a plane, such as this one with a value of 5 crowns, the player takes this award. This player then holds on to that award until somebody else sells a plane of higher value, such as this one here, which has a value of 6. When this plane is sold, this player takes over the distinction award. This award will keep being passed around from player to player during the game, and whoever holds it at the end of the game gets a bonus 8 crowns. The final step of a player's turn is cleanup, where the player must discard down to 5 cards if he or she has more than 5. As with any other time discarding in the game, discards are placed on the bottom of the main deck, face down. Play continues in this manner, with each player taking 1 turn after the other until the final card is drawn from the draw deck. This triggers the endgame, and play continues until all players have had the same number of turns. Then proceed to endgame scoring. To complete endgame scoring, evaluate the 3 awards. The Distinction Award will already be with the player who wins it, as it has been passing around through the game to the player with the most valuable plane. Then, all players count up the total number of parts in the planes that they've sold during the game. Whoever has the most parts wins the Industry Award. Then, players total up the total cost of all of the employees that they have hired during the game, ignoring any modifiers on recruiter cards or others. Whichever player has the most expensive employee pool wins the Enterprise Award. Give 8 crowns to the player who has each of these, and in the event of a tie, the players who tie share that 8 crowns rounded down. Whoever has the most money after all the awards are evaluated is the winner. In the event of a tie, whoever is later in the turn order is the winner. And that's how to play Planecrafters. At the time we filmed this video, the project was still active on Kickstarter, so check it out if you're interested. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed playing. Please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to hear more from Meeple University.